Okay, excuse me if this is a little shaky, but I don't ever make videos, but I'm gonna try and give you some tips. Um, Let me minimize this. The first thing you want to do is find the best, most clearest image with lines that you can, and you can drag it into Lightburn. Once you get into Lightburn, the first thing you want to do, don't resize it. Whatever size it comes up as when you drag it in there, leave it. With the image highlighted like this, what I do is I right click, go down on this particular image because I played with it a second ago. The first thing I'm going to do with this particular image, because it has so much detail, is I'm going to adjust image. Okay, you don't have to do this for every image, but because this image has a lot of dark spots, especially in the hat, you may want to enhance it and brighten it. So we're going to enhance the radius a little bit. Enhance this bottom one here to make it lighter. And what this does is it just makes the image, the lines just come out more defined, so it's easier to trace when you go to trace. Again, you don't have to do this with all images. It's just sometimes if you can't get a good trace from the initial image, you might, because it's so dark, you might want to go in and lighten it up a little bit, because the trace image, it traces dark and light areas. So that might be good right there. If you can see the difference, now the cheeks, you know, we can see more of this shadowing in the cheeks and stuff like that. But for engraving on tumblers, that might not be needed. Once you just lighten it a little bit, get more defined lines, and if you can see the lines are more defined around everything, the beard, the hat, everything like that, just click OK. And then that's the image. That's the image you have right there. Hold on, I'm sorry, I had a call coming in. Let me put this on Do Not Disturb. This is why I don't make videos, because I don't know how to do this video stuff. Let me see. Do Not Disturb. There we go. Okay, so once you've adjusted image and you got it to where your lines are more defined, right click on that same image and go down to Trace Image. This will bring up this window. I'm going to make it bigger so you can see better. Okay. Once you're in this window, if you can see some of these purple pinkish lines, that's what's being traced. A better way to see that is to go down here and fade image. That way you can see exactly what's being traced. Initially it's going to pick up some things, but not all. Okay. And this is where these little controls down here come in handy. This top one, as you're watching the image, if I move it up, it's going to start tracing more of the image and you'll start seeing more purple lines. This cutoff is what traces all the like dark spots in the image. Dark outlines like the shoulder pads, stuff like that. And you'll lose some the more and more you play with these. This bottom one for the threshold, it's what catches all the white spaces. So as I move this up and down, you'll start to see more lines come in because it's actually tracing everything. One other thing about the trace is it has this thing right here called sketch trace. What the sketch trace does is if you can't get the right trace of everything you want just with these two bars, you can use the sketch trace. Now to use a sketch trace, I usually just bring this all the way up, turn the sketch trace on, and then I only move the bottom one. And the reason I do that is because once the sketch trace is on, the only way to get more lines is to decrease the white space bar. And as you notice, look at the image. As I keep going lower and lower, more stuff is getting traced out, more defined. So if I was to zoom in and do this again, you can see where if I go up, I lose lines. If I go down, I'm tracing more stuff. You don't have to use sketch trace all the time, but for some images it's really good, some images it's not so good. If you can get, turning that off, if you can get all the purple lines in that you want, that you think you need for a particular image, then you don't have to do the sketch trace. But it's all about manipulating these controls right here. Something I'm going to show you is if you start getting these little funny shapes and dots, that's just because the program is tracing every little possible thing it can. The way to get rid of those is this thing, ignore less than. So basically it says any of these little dots that's like less than 2 lines or so that connect to each other, the higher you go, the more of those spaces disappear. I don't know if it's dots or centimeters or how it actually measures, but you know, it helps things disappear. But if you notice, like, pay attention to this area. Right now I'm at 31. If I go any higher, even though I want that spot, just at 32 it disappears. And I want that spot because it's part of the eyes. Some other things you may want is, like, you see these little loops right here, or where the lines don't look as smooth. That's what the smoothness is for. So if you go down, those lines are going to get sharper and pointier. If you go up, what it's going to do is it's going to start rounding out those edges and corners and stuff. So I'm going to play with this for a minute and see if I can trace what I can and manipulate what I can. Oh, one other thing, if you notice right here, high school isn't highlighted. For me, if I don't get a good trace right off the back with letters, I just delete the letters completely out of the image, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And once I delete them, I just use the text to type them back in with different fonts. So I'm going to play with this a little bit, see what I can do. Let's go here. And again, it's all about manipulating. It takes time to play with this, but once you've done it a few times, you get quicker and quicker at it. Okay. Let's see. Keep going down. It might be too much. Let's take it a little slow, step by step. Sometimes you have to go back and forth between sketch trace, because if sketch trace is on, you cannot move this at all. So sometimes going back and forth between the two just so you can move this helps as well. Okay, 32 there. Got some good lines on my stars and my dark spots. Let me see if I can get that. Shoulder pattern. Maybe right there. Alright, now I'm going to turn sketch trace back on. Let's play with this. The key is to get the lines to connect and form solid shapes. And you won't be able to catch everything, but you want to catch as much as possible. Or catch what you can in the trace and then manipulate it once you get out of the trace. I think I'm going to stop right there. The other key for tumblers is you kind of have to foresee the image for what it's going to look like when you engrave it, meaning once you get it set on the computer, anything that's black is going to be the stainless steel, as you probably already know, and anything white is going to be the color of the cup. So let me play with this a little bit more. I think I could do something here. Missing a tooth. For the most part, everything else looks traced. Let me see the shoulder pad. Maybe right there, and I can delete that extra out. Okay. I don't want that eye though. Let me lower this. Maybe I can get the eye back. Oh, there it goes. Pop back in there. Okay. The other thing you want to look for is to get rid of this border, you have to make sure that the lines aren't broken. You won't always get that perfect, but I'll show you how to fix that when we get out of the program. So at this point, I think I'm kind of happy with what I got, and I could probably manipulate it more outside of the program. So let's just do this. I think I got all my main spots, and I may just want to delete some of these once I get out of the program, but I think I got mostly everything else traced. Once you get to that point, you're happy with what you got, you think it'll be easily manipulated out of the trace program, click OK. Once you click OK, click off of it. Let me click back on it. Sorry. Once you get out of the trace program, click ungroup. Okay. Once you ungroup it, you can move stuff. And this is the original image, and now this is everything that you traced right here. Okay. Let's put it next to it. So let's zoom in a little bit so you can see both. At this point with this image, you can change it to line. I know the first thing I want to do is get rid of this border. So the first thing I'm going to do is deselect it. I'm going to come over here to this little tool. Sorry, you probably can't see that. The camera moved. So this little tool right here is the nodes tool. When you click on that, turn it on, and then you click on any line that's ungrouped. Remember, neither one of these is highlighted, so all these lines in here are ungrouped, and I can manipulate every single line in this image after I changed it to line. To get rid of this border, I'm going to go here to these little dots. I'm going to hover over this one. Don't click it, just hover, and then I'm going to click on B on my control pad. What that does is it breaks the line. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here. Hover over it, press B, it breaks the line. And then you see, because both lines are broken now, it's not a solid line that's connected. I'm going to click back on it and I can separate it. Then for this image, what I want to do is I want to connect them. Connect these two boxes. The key to these boxes right here is, if this is a circle, you want to connect a circle to a circle. If it's a green box, connect a green box to a green box. If it's a little gray box, connect the gray box to the gray box. If you hover over this, it tells you what all your controls do. And this is a good tool to learn because it helps out a lot. Anyways, once we get out of there, if you notice, all I'm going to have now is this, that for these lines. So if I click on the arrow, it gives me that solid line, and now this is its own independent line, and I can delete that completely, and this is what I'm left with. Okay, so the next step you want to do is, I always go back between fill and line to see what I'm left with. All right, and so far that's looking pretty good. Now, something I want to show you is, this is where I was talking about you kind of have to foresee what the image is going to look like when you engrave it. So we know when we engrave, this white part is going to be the color of the hat, right? Or the color of the cup. Everything black is going to be the stainless steel. If we look at our original image, we notice that we have different shadings here. The way to separate these is, once you go to line, here, change that back to line, you can see each individual thing, right? So I think what I'm going to do here, and again, it's all about how you manipulate the image. Let's say, I'm going to go back to fill for a second so you can see it. So right now I have all this white space, okay? If I change this to line and I delete this, when I change it back to fill, it's going to fill that in. So now I'll probably have a more defined eye right here, because it's going to start looking a lot more like the image. So I'm going to try something. Change it back to line. Let's see what individual line I have here. I'm going to delete this one too. Delete. Oh, my battery is about to die. Deleted that. I'm going to change it back to fill. See what it looks like. So again, it's starting to look a little better. I'm starting to get more defined lines. Okay. Let's try this again. And I'm going to pause in just a second. Let's see. If you notice, this is one whole line. So I may have to break it somewhere, or I may just have to leave it be. Because if I delete this, it's also going to mess with the ear here. But just for purposes, manipulation purposes, let's see what would happen if I delete it. But actually, it's part of this space too, so that's not going to work. In this particular case, let me change it back to fill. For this particular area right here that I may want to have black, this is where another tool comes into use called the offset. So what I could do here is click on that and use my offset key. This is my offset right here. This little circle thing. What this does is it's basically going to double these lines, and you can change the thickness of the line. So let's say I click on this line, I offset it, and right now it's at 0.06, and you see this solid line that appeared. I'll do it again so you can see it. Watch this area and you're going to see this circle that basically outlines this thing. We're going to offset it. Okay. Let me move some stuff around. Now that you've seen the offset and you see this extra line that it did, we can change these numbers. If I lower it, let's say 300, it makes it smaller. I can go all the way down to 0.25. I can go all the way down to 0.0 to make those smaller and smaller. Or the other thing I could do is, instead of the line, let's go up back where we started. Instead of the line coming outside of what I want doubled, I could do inner, and it would go to the inner part, which you can't see it until you start adjusting the thickness of the line. I don't really ever use inward. I usually use outward. The other thing is sometimes you can change these to where it's outer shape only. Again, all this is about learning how to manipulate the tools. So give me a second. Let me play with this a little bit. Let me go back to fill. See what I can do here to make these eyes stand out. What does my original image look like? All that's dark. All this should be dark. So let's do this. I change it back to lines so you can see. I'm gonna offset that. I'm gonna make it, let me see. Oh, there we go. Now, if you notice, I offsetted it and I dropped it really low. But at this point, what you can do is we'll backtrace so we don't get this in our engrave, this white line in our engrave, or the color of the cup left in the engrave. I'm gonna change it back to line, and I'm gonna back step to where it's a single line. I'm going to offset it again, outward. I'm going to see if I delete the original object, what it's going to do. And again, remember, it's about playing with it. You've got to be able to manipulate it to the point. That's probably still too much. Let's go 100, see what 100 does for us. Okay, that's not bad. And then we're going to delete original objects. Okay. Let's change back to fill. And that didn't work. Again, you just got to play with it. Let's go back. At this point, we know we have to have a double line offset right here to fill that space. We're at 100. We're going to turn off delete original objects, and we're going to say okay, and then we're going to fill it and see what it looks like, which makes that thicker. So that means we need to decrease even more. I think we were at 0.25. Let's go there, one line again. The other option I might actually do, instead of that, I might just do these, the part of the eye details that I want to keep, and offset those instead of offsetting this space. Because if I offset those, it will automatically offset the rest of it. So let me try that and see what happens. We'll do that. We'll leave it at 100 for now. Let's fill it. Nope, that didn't work either. All right, let's keep messing around. It's all about playing and manipulating to what you want to get. We're going to back step. So obviously we know to get this dark, we need to break some lines or delete this completely. Let's delete it completely and see what happens. Change it back to fill. Oh, actually it didn't look that bad with the ear and the whole piece missing. So that might be what we want to do. Okay. Let me zoom back in. Hold on. Oh, look at that. So again, remember when we engrave, whatever is white is going to be the color of the cup. Whatever is black is going to be the stainless steel. If you wanted to flip this around and make the inside of the hat the color of the cup, then we can highlight the whole thing and do an offset that way. And then it looks like this. It looks funny, but when you engrave it, it's going to come out how you want it. But I'm going to cancel that, and I want to show you something that one step I forgot. Once you're done offsetting stuff and it looks exactly how you want it to look, go back to line, and if you use an offset, you want to make sure that you group your lines. So that way when you start moving things or moving the whole image around, you won't lose pieces on the inside. So here, the easiest way to get every single line grouped is to highlight it and then group it. That way, when I fill it, I can move things around without losing little pieces of lines or little circles, if that makes sense. Okay. But before I do that, to finalize it, I want to show you what I was talking about, because I don't like the way high school looks down here. I think Woodlawn looks okay. Me personally, I'd probably still, for my purposes, delete that out. And the easiest way to delete individual pieces is to be in the line mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to ungroup it. And then I'm going to highlight, click and hold and highlight all of that, and I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to end up typing it all in there. Give me 1 second, because I see something on that shoulder pad I may want to delete. Yeah, I want to fill this in completely because it's basically filled in on the main thing. Or is it? Let me see. On the main image. Yeah, it's basically filled in here. So I want to fill this in as well. Or I may just want to leave it outlined. What do I want to do? White's the color of the cup. So if I fill this in and make it all black, it's going to become silver. Okay, let me work with these letters first. To do letters, of course, if you haven't figured it out, you can do the text. Get off that image. We can do text, and then here we can type in what we want. So I have caps. We're going to type in high school. And if you've downloaded just to your computer, period, different fonts, it'll actually automatically be in Lightburn. So let me see if I can find, what is it? Look, they're block letters. Let me see if I can find a good font for that. I don't know what font that is, but I'm going to try and get as close as I can to it. Britannica, maybe? No. Wrong. Come on now. I think it's Impact. Took me off of the thing. Okay. Start slowing down now, laptop. Let's go to Impact. Oh, there it is. Come on, computer. There we go. Stop it. Hi. Oh, that's pretty close. Let's just go with that for now. For the letters, as long as you're in the letter space, you can change the size here, of course. You can even change the spacing between the letters by using height space. So that spreads them out, brings them in. The vertical space, it moves it up. I want to spread those out a little bit, and then we'll change the size a little bit more. I know it may not be exact, but I think it'll look good. Let's see what one more looks like. Yeah, that might work. Then we're going to click back on the arrow over here to get back to where we can move the whole image itself. We're going to put it right there. You can do the same with Woodlawn. I'm going to leave it as is right now, because if you notice, if we're in the line, you can break these lines right here like we did, like I showed you with this little tool. You click on that and then you click on the line, and you can separate these letters, but it just depends on how much work you want to do. So I think it looks good. I think it's okay for now, so we'll leave it like that. We'll fill it, and so far this is what we got that's going to engrave. Now going back to where I was before we did the high school thing, and actually here's another good practice. Since all this is going to engrave out in silver, let's say you wanted to give it this line to where it stands out more. Click on it and then do the offset. And as you notice, it comes back to the lines. Let's move this out of the way so you can see. Now you'll have some silver, and then you'll have some of the color still in the cup. Let's change the thickness of those lines so you could see the difference. Let's go to 300. That might be too much. Let's go to 200. That might work. All right, so we're happy with that. We're gonna leave it like that. Okay. Again, you have to imagine what this is going to look like when you actually engrave it on the cup. Everything white is going to be the color, everything black is going to be the silver. If you wanted to change this, again, like I said, you could highlight everything and then again play with the offset. And when you do that, everything gets double lined again. And now everything, again, white is going to be the color of the cup. Everything black is going to be silver, but I don't really think that's what we need here, so I'm going to cancel that. I think this might work. I have the detail of the eyes. I don't know if I want this line in the cheek. I may just want to have that solid. I know it's shaded here and it's shaded here in this beard, but I may just want that to be the color of the cup. It may look funny when you engrave it. It may look like he's got a scar or something instead of shading. So yeah, I think I'm gonna delete those out. Let me go to line. So that way when I click on it, I can make sure it's its own independent thing and it's not going to affect any other line. So I'm going to delete that out. And the same thing with this one here. I don't want that shading in the beard. Let me see what else might be. Okay, I know. This part is probably going to be shaded right here. So we're going to delete that one too. Again, it's all about learning how to manipulate the image. Let's see what that lip looks like. Might not be too bad. We might be able to leave that. Let's see, because it actually differentiates the lip from the beard. The other thing in Lightburn that you can do, let me go back to line here for a second. If you wanted to, you could rotate this to make it parallel to the lip. You can move all these individual shapes if you're in line mode. It just makes it easier to see. You can also, again, click on this node thing and you can manipulate these lines. These blue bars right here make you change the shape of it, if you notice, okay? You can bring it in closer. These blue lines are connected to these gray boxes and you can change the shape. Like I said, I've learned that I don't have to use my Photoshop or Illustrator or anything like that with Lightburn. It really does it all once you learn how to use the tools in it. So I don't think that made too much of a difference. Let's fill it and see. It may just make them look like a fat lip. Let me click on that arrow and get that out of there. Oh, actually, no, it looks pretty good. Let's go back to line. Let's say you have like these jagged lines right here and you want to straighten them out. The best way to do that is highlight the line, go over here to the little node adjustment, and hover over any particular thing, and you can start deleting these and it'll start straight. Oop, that broke a line. So something was connected there that it broke a line. We're going to backspace and reconnect that line. But these little gray dots, you can delete them to straighten out lines. Sometimes if you don't want to do individually, you can highlight multiple ones, and if they turn, as they turn red and you have to click D. Don't hit delete. If you hit delete, it'll delete the whole thing. Click the letter D and that just deletes those nodes. So let's say I want to straighten all of this out right here. Yeah, let's go here. Let's say I want to straighten those out. Click D, it straightens the line out. That's another neat little trick. Let's say I want to straighten these out. And as you see, notice, be careful, because if it touches that line, it's fine, but sometimes, again, you just got to learn how to manipulate the tools. Let's straighten that. Oh, that took that all the way in, so we're going to undo that one. I just wanted to show you that real fast. Let's delete some of these so it don't look so crazy. Let's click on this line, highlights that one. Let's straighten at least the outside line out. Yeah. You know what? I may just want to delete that. Let me see how it looks. This is all filled in. Let's delete that whole space and see what it looks like. And because it's its individual line, I can do that. As long as you're not in this little node mode, you can click delete to delete a whole thing out. But if you're in that node mode, it'll delete more than you want. Now let's fill it and see what it looks like. Okay, well, at this point, I think we're pretty close to our image. I'm going to send this to you and see what you think. Foil your cup, wrap painter's tape around the foil, and do a test engrave so you don't mess up all your cups. Unless you don't mind using a cup that you've already messed up. I've done that. I have so many test cups I've already used. All right, I'm going to send this to you.